So, and with that note, I wanna I already low-key announced that we're bringing BattlefieldOne podcast back.
Yay!
So, it's so stupid. It's so out of nowhere. Like, remember I messaged you, Ray, I have a stupid idea. And you're like, oh yeah, when...
What else is new?
Yeah, what else is new? So, to be fair, I had this stupid idea for like a couple of months now. And yeah, we bring in BattlefieldOne podcast back. And I already explained in episode 1 that's already should be live on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon Music. And the reason I'm only doing audio or version only is just because it's just to test the waters, just to see how people react to it, how they feel about it. So I'm not gonna do the YouTube version of the podcast yet, because I just want to test the waters and see how it goes. And as I've been listening to other Battlefield podcasts right now that are currently, up, all these platforms, I was like curious, like how they approach Battlefield with, Battlefield 2042 being in this state, even though it's getting a lot of positive feedback, like really a lot of positive feedback right now, oh, the game is fun and everything, blah blah blah. That's good. A lot of positive feedback, but I'm really curious how other shows, other podcasts are talking about Battlefield, in general. And they do the same thing as I know we talked about in the previous episode. I can't remember which episode was it. Like it was like many episodes ago. And remember how we mentioned that as we were kept going with the BattlefieldOne podcast back in the day, before the 2020s, we started positively. We were excited, we were into it and everything. But as time went on, we became more cynical, more jaded, more annoyed.
Mainly because we were saying the exact same shit.
We were repeating, repeating ourselves, yeah.
And it just wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't fun anymore. And I can see these podcasts are low-key. They're getting there. They're really getting there. This is like, I just want to mention to them. I just mention, guys, you're doing the same mistakes we did back in the day. I just want to mention, but no, I just like, no, maybe they know. Maybe let them. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be the guy who says, oh, I know best. No, because I enjoy their podcasts. Their podcasts are really good. This one particular one, the Battlefield show. It's good. The two guys talking about Battlefield and from a casual perspective, and it's really interesting to listen. So if you want to hear a good Battlefield podcast, you hear them out. Well, I'm promoting my own Battlefield podcast, right? No, but
why not?
Yeah, it's a really good podcast, and I really enjoyed listening to those guys. And then I was listening to other Battlefield podcasts, how they approach Battlefield, and it's kind of the same thing. Like as time went on, keep going, they kind of becoming more jaded and everything. But the other podcasts I listened, for example, I'm not gonna mention which ones, but the ones I listened, oh my god, that is some toxic bullshit. There's some toxic bullshit. It's not because they're like really angry about the game and everything, but it's just like they're just toxic. In a sense, they are kind of toxic. And okay, for example, I don't know. Do you want to know how bad is to make podcasts about Battlefield these days? So I'm listening to this podcast, right? Battlefield podcast. I'm not gonna mention which podcast, but it was a Battlefield podcast. I'm listening to these guys talk about Battlefield, and he mentioned about which the famous actor just died now.
Michael.
Lance something, right?
Yeah, I had to look him up the last time we talked about him.
Yeah. He's so the actor from Destiny 2, from The Wire, from John Wick, and blah, blah, like the cool guy.
Fucking Irish, yeah.
No, not Irish.
Yeah, Irish. That's Michael something. Yeah, he's the one who did the mocap for Irish.
Lance Reddick. Here we go. That's the name. Lance Reddick.
Oh, okay, different fellow then.
Different fella. The completely different fella. Lance Reddick. Have you seen John Wick movies?
Not recently.
Okay, so he's the one of the hotel receptionist and stuff. The cool one. Anyway,
Fair enough.
not the point. Not the point. He's a good actor and everything. But anyway, he just mentioned that he passed away and everything. I mean, okay, that's cool. Okay, so now let's talk about Battlefield. Quick mentions for what we're gonna talk about the podcast. Blah blah blah. Okay, cool. And I shit you not, Ray. You will not guess what you will not guess what happens next.
What?
Randomly, out of nowhere, they say, okay, so here's a Formula One recap.
What?
And they have sound effects. Okay, Formula One recap with, I don't remember the guy's name. Formula One recap, just randomly. And they have the sound effects of the cars, passing by, in the Formula One style, like transition to this section. And they literally talk about Formula One for 10 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm listening. I thought I'm listening to a Battlefield podcast, and they start talking about fucking Formula One. What the fuck? I'm listening, and then they switch to Battlefield.
Oh my god!
It's like, I'm so fucking confused. Like, here's the thing. Hey!
Maybe
I said
they
here's
got
the
their
thing.
scripts mixed up.
No.
You did. Ding.
Yeah, exactly. Shut the fuck up. So I'm just confused. Like, okay, maybe it's some sort of a joke, a running joke, or whatever. Like, maybe they've been doing podcasts for a while, so maybe it's a running joke, and people like appreciate that. And maybe they are all Formula One fans. It's fine. I mean, like, I don't get. I'm not gonna criticize them for making the show the way they like it. It's fine. It's
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm not gonna judge that. But then, like, I'm just, when I listen to, like, a brand new listener, right? And I listen to our Battlefield podcast, and then suddenly, 10 minutes, 5 minutes into the podcast, I get, here's a Formula One recap that happened in Bahrain race. Like, Fernando Alonso and Ferrari and the malfunction. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm listening! And they have the sound effects
I would have legitimately stopped, looked at my device, and been like, did my shit just, like, change podcasts out of nowhere?
Did!
No, this is the same one. What the hell?
And they don't have time codes in the fucking podcast either, so I can't even skip through forward to whatever because they don't have fucking time codes. So I'm like, what the... This is a Battlefield podcast, a gaming podcast about Battlefield, but let's talk about fucking Formula One for 10 minutes. Bitch, what the fuck am I listening? I'm so confused.
My dude, you're starting to sound like a damn YouTube comment section right now.
I'm so fucking confused. I don't understand. So, okay, anyway, after we're done with Formula One, we finally talk about Battlefield. And they remind me of the guys that do Call of Duty podcast. And the ones I listen, they're really also equally toxic and annoying and just completely morons, don't understand what the fuck they're talking about.
Start a podcast war, bro.
I'm not starting a podcast war, but I'm just like, is it hard to be not a toxic piece of shit? Is it hard?
I don't know. I guess it all just depends upon what the fucking audience is appealed to.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
It's really what it boils down to.
I guess. Anyway, so the reason I decided to reboot the podcast is not because I don't want us to go negative route and talk about Battlefield 2042 for a whole fucking year until the next game comes out and then be excited and be disappointed again. I don't want that. I don't want that shit. So, the idea of the podcast for Battlefield 1 podcast, the reboot, is to highlight the actual positive aspects of Battlefield. I want to change the narrative, how podcast and content creation works for Battlefield. Because if I don't want to rely on the news of Battlefield, whatever DICE or EA announces, because that means we talking about Battlefield on their terms. I don't want that. And that's why we got so negative, because there was nothing to talk about and everything was going to shit and everything was really negative. There was nothing positive to talk about.
When the subject matter is crap, what do you expect?
Yeah, exactly. And besides, even if they announce something, it's probably nothing important in the first place. So I want to make this podcast, Battlefield 1 podcast, to be different. I wanted to highlight the positive aspects of the whole Battlefield franchise. I don't want to focus on just Battlefield 2042. I do want to, check out, remember all the games, see what they did right, what they did wrong, what can be used for the next game, and so on. For example, what Bad Company 2 is being gonna be shut down in less than a year. So we can talk about that, just what we think about the game and so on. Hardline, and we can talk about the Hardline, why we did not like Hardline and so on. Why Battlefield 1 is good, but at the same time it's not.
I got a whole goddamn 20-minute video that I made back in the day why I didn't like Hardline.
Yeah, exactly. So we can talk about that. Hey, we can invite Flagfire again to talk about Hardline, or Battlefield 1 in that matter. There's so much potential we can, explore. And also, because it's our podcast, but it's a niche specified podcast. And if we go with the same rules as we go for a live gaming gathering, don't rely on the news that much and just rely on our personalities and what we want to talk about. I think these two podcasts, Live Gaming Gathering and Battlefield 1 podcast, they can complement each other, promoting each other. So on Spotify, like, we have Battlefield 1 podcast that is about Battlefield, and we have Live Gaming Gathering where we talk about, random stuff that we like in video games. They can complement each other. Of course, when we talk about Battlefield, they might, some topics mix then there.
Overlap.
Overlap. Yeah, it can happen, but that's okay, because as long as we keep it under control, it's fine. And I think it's great. And also, as I already released the episode 1, it was just me basically describing, explaining why I want to reboot the podcast. And if you're a patron, you get 1 week early access. Because I was thinking
Sell that shit.
It's on the cheaper version of the Patreon. So $2 you get $2, a month, you get a whole week of early access, for the podcast, and you get another episode from me on top. But yeah, it's just I want to change the narrative how Battlefield content creation works. I just want to highlight the positive aspects of the franchise, because what's the point bitching about something that we bitched for 10 years now?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we've spent the better part of almost close to a decade ripping on that damn game.
Yeah, the whole fucking franchise. How many times are we gonna fucking rip on? It's just. But I just want to like I said, positive aspects of the franchise. And invite some people. I actually want to invite some Battlefield content creators and just talk to them what they like about Battlefield. Why they became content creators. And so on, and that kind of stuff. Maybe try to poke what Reddit thinks about Battlefield, just to analyze that. It's just something different, something more that would go like, that's an interesting fact, or that's an interesting topic, just that makes you think for a little bit. I understand it's not going to be popular with the masses regarding Battlefield, because they probably expect news or gun balance and stuff.
Where are my leaks, bro?
Yeah, where are my leaks, or where are my patch notes, or that kind of stuff. I don't want to do that. Oh god, do you know how much I hate patch note reading?
Oh god, fuck no, never, nope.
Yeah, it's like, they buffed this weapon and this. I will try to use this and blah blah. I just don't care. It doesn't matter, my dude. It doesn't fucking matter.